Hey guys, Vyle here. Just want to give another big thank you. My last couple of videos have been getting a really good response, and that means I'll be making more for you guys. The videos will probably consist of 2 shorts and 1 long form video a week. If the response gets even better, I might even do more if I have time. Again, thank you, and let's go ahead and hop into it.
There's no hide. Not for you, not for me. Try not to disappoint me, soldier.
Guys, Ubisoft might have done a crazy thing. They made Sledge at 2 speed again. Now, I know a lot of people might not remember how dominant Sledge was and how he just absolutely destroyed everyone. But then RAM came out, and they nerfed cook time on nades. And just to top it all off, they removed his SMG-11. Basically, he went from old reliable to not played. I mean, he had his use, but RAM and Buck just did it better. But now my boy is back. He is no longer the fattest man alive, and it's great. Now, Ubisoft just got to give him back the SMG-11, and it'll be just mwah, chef's kiss. Will they do that? No, because Ubisoft hates fun. But just to make Sledge better, they nerfed Buck and Ram. Now, before I continue on about Sledge and how much I love Sledge, and I love him. I love him so much. Besides my mental problems, we need to go through the rest of the patch notes. First, we'll start with the win percentages for console. For defense, there's not really any noticeable difference besides Rook and Kapkan take a little bit of a dip, but besides that, there's really not much. Doc is basically in the same place. Vigil really hasn't moved. I mean, Goyo goes up from the previous season, but Kapkan basically just takes a dip. I mean, your operators like your Mel, your Rooney, your Frost, Rook, Mira, Valk, Legion, they pretty much all stay in the same place. They don't really move at all. I mean, everything is consolidating a little bit closer together, so actually the balancing seems to be getting a little bit better, at least by the graph standards. By gameplay standards, maybe not as much, but that just depends on community feedback. Most players right now are sadly not picking operators based off of utility or ability, unless their ability is absolutely busted. That being like your Tuberao, your Azami, your Mel. I mean, Doc is basically only picked because of his gun and his steps. Now, let's go on to attack. The attackers from the previous season and this season are actually pretty much the same, except Blackbeard now gets picked more often. Besides that, Ram takes a little bit of a dip, and then everything else is basically the same. I feel like, relatively speaking, balance on console is okay, at least for this season and last season. Having a few operators jump out of the bunch and pick rate doesn't really do too much for balancing. There's always going to be that one operator that sticks out, or multiple. But at least they're operators that are more fun than completely busted. Examples being Fenrir and Solus in the previous seasons. Now, let's go ahead and jump into the PC side. Now, on PC, Kapkan takes a little bit of a dip from the previous season, but besides that, everything is basically the same as before. I mean, Doc gets a little bit stronger in the percentage, but besides that, nothing really flip-flops besides Fenrir. In the previous season seemed a little bit stronger, and now he's a little bit weaker than he was before. Now, let's hop into attack. Now, the previous season, they nerfed shields, so Monty took a massive hit. I mean, compared to the shield meta, Monty is in a pretty good spot now. He went from basically uncounterable to now you can actually play against him again. Last season, he was really oppressive because of melee priority, and, you know, just couldn't really hit the shields to move him out of the way like you can now. It doesn't mean that Monty doesn't have his niche anymore. It just means he's not as universally viable as he is in the previous season. Thank you, Ubisoft. Now, let's go ahead and dip on over to the console ban rates. I mean, really the only difference is that Fenrir and Mira swap. I mean, with people wanting to play more loose and wanting to just get into the action, banning Mira more often means that you can do that more effectively. So this does make sense of why this would be a trend. I mean, it's also the same thing with Fenrir. For console, though, the #1 ban is pretty much always Kapkan. And honestly, I don't think that's going to change for a while, even with this upcoming Kapkan nerf. Okay, let's go ahead and hop over to the console attack really quick. With the downfall of Monty after the shield nerf, it looks like Blackbeard has come to take his ban spot. Dokkaebi following right behind, and then Monty in 4th place. I mean, Blackbeard is in a really good spot right now, even with shield nerfs, just because having a gun while having a shield is just really, really strong. Having an AR with a shield is just, it's something we haven't had before. And I think the trend of Blackbeard being really strong is probably going to stick for the long run. The only way I see this changing in the future is if they nerf him some way or they buff another operator that'll take his place. But I don't see that happening for shields. I think shields are in a good spot again, and I think they're probably going to stay there and not touch them for a while. I mean, Jackal does counter roam play, so if you want to roam, banning Jackal isn't necessarily the worst idea. That and Dokkaebi is tied with Blackbeard, so that makes more sense. Probably meaning if you ban Jackal, you choose between the other two, whoever's more impressive to you. Let's go ahead and swap over to PC defense bans. Now, for defense on PC, from the previous season, it is pretty much the same, just Clash swaps out with Vigil in the new season. And really, that's kind of to be expected with the rise of Boss G. The thing about PC for Fenrir is Fenrir usually just gets played on more oppressive angles and on choke points. And since, frankly, it's easier to aim on PC, he usually shuts down players a lot quicker. It also makes it way easier for you to hold angles and hold positions longer against your attackers. It basically makes it hell for them to push you. Now, Mira, Vigil, and Clash, it seems like Mira will pretty much always be the second. But with Boss G, it does make sense why Vigil ends up rising up a little bit more than Clash. In previous seasons, we didn't see basically any Vigil. So actually, it's kind of refreshing to see Vigil for once. And I probably don't have to explain Clash too heavily, but Clash is just very annoying to play against. She shocks you forever. I know in very high elo lobbies, like Champ top 3000, any player you play that plays Clash is gonna ruin your day. The reason she's not banned any more than Fenrir or Mira or Vigil is just because they seem stronger with, you know, Vigil having a one-shot, Fenrir taking your sight away. And Mira can just play safe behind her Miras as long as she realistically wants to. Even if Ashe breaks it, they can still play it and they can pop it. Now, let's go ahead and hop over onto PC attack. Now, the previous season just goes to show how strong Dokkaebi really has been in the past few seasons for PC. Dokkaebi pretty much leads the charge on all pushes, and if she isn't banned, she's played. Now, for this season, it makes sense Blackbeard being at the top, because nobody likes playing against the new Blackbeard now. Dokkaebi follows suit, and then we just see the drop of Monty down to 3rd from where Monty was previously. Now that we're done with the ban rates, let's go ahead and hop over to the nerfs and the buffs. So first we start with Buck, a well-deserved nerf after he became the jack of all trades. They removed the breach charges and gave him claymores, which honestly I feel like balances him out a lot more than him just being able to open soft floors, walls, and then also being able to get hatches or just any breach. Overall, I think Buck is now in a pretty good and balanced place. Now, they removed some lethality off of Capcan. They removed his nitro and gave him barbed wire, which honestly I think is a tick down for any trap meta lovers. But besides that, who can, Cap can, so I mean it doesn't really do much to him. Usually the only reason you play Cap can is because you're playing it for the traps, so removing a nitro I don't think is going to do too much. Now, pretty excited for this nerf. Legion is losing 1 canister and his refill time is getting increased to 30 seconds from 25. Honestly, after the past few seasons, I feel like this is a well-deserved nerf. Legion kind of became the spam it all operator and just hope they walk into. To be fair, it does work because you have so many and attackers only have so much time to check for things. Hopefully this makes Legion more sight-oriented and putting them on chokes and stuff like that. All around, I think this is a very, very good change for Legion, and honestly, I feel like they could have even done more, maybe even brought it down to 7. But at the end of the day, any heavy-handed changes to Legion haven't really gone well in the past, so we'll just have to see. Now, very excited for this change. Oryx is getting a buff. They buffed his weapon recovery after a dash to 0.2 seconds from 0.5. His weapon recovery from going through a wall to 0.3 from 0.5. And they also reduced his enemy ramming from 0.5 to 0.1. So now you just get added value for, let's say, Rama dashing a shield or just any player. Essentially, if you dash onto somebody now and you actually hit them with the dash, you're getting a free pick. Now, also excited for this next change, Ram is getting a nerf. She's gonna lose her shotgun, and that's it. To be fair, I don't think Ram should have ever had a shotgun when her ability is so good at opening vertical. Removing it just makes it easier for anybody else to play against her on the defender side. It will also just help with the pick rate of Sledge and Buck. Buck is getting the nerf, and Sledge is getting a buff, so in hindsight, this is only helping Sledge's pick rate. Buck will probably stay relatively in the same spot as he is now. Now we get to the main event. The only change that Sledge is getting is that he is going from a 1 speed to a 2 speed, and it is beautiful. Obviously, with the speed increase, he gets a decrease on his HP to 2-2, and honestly, I don't think there's any other change they need to really do to him besides give him back SMG-11 for fun. For slug shotguns, they basically nerfed the damage drop-off and damage at range. So now the damage is going to be a lot less, especially at farther ranges. This will make all of the Azami slug shotgun enjoyers probably cry, which you deserve. I hate you. Besides that, these are all the operators that are affected by the change. Obviously, it's only the operators that have these guns. Now, pretty excited for this change. G36C is getting a pretty big buff to recoil. The G36C needed the buff. After its previous nerf, it kind of just fell off into the void, and nobody played it. The main reason being is that the other guns for Iana and Ashe are just a lot better, at least recoil-wise. Iana kind of disappeared from any play after they removed her Gon 6, but she might make a return off this. Now, to compensate for the slug change, the TCSG is actually getting a slight buff in damage. It's going from 63 to 75. I'm not sure on the exact stats of that, but that might make it relatively equal to where it is now, at least at range. And besides that, I'm pretty excited for these patch notes. I'm a little bit disappointed that there weren't more changes, but we'll just have to see what they do for next season. Until then, I'm not going to post another recap video until the new season comes out, unless something changes. And with that, I'm out.
Don't follow me, babe, there's nothing to save. I'm really the villain, I'll lose anyway. It's just part of the play. Don't follow me, babe, I'll go to the end of the world just to stay, just so you're safe, girl.